Will Papua New Guinea be next?
Solomon Islands, the next country over from you. China could have a military base just a few hundred kilometres from your country. Does that concern you?
I have no information on this.
But is this a Prime Minister's clever bluff?
Really? It's the biggest story in the region. And you're saying you don't know about it?
I have no knowledge of that proposal.
Or does he really not know the news?
With all due respect, some might suggest you're burying your head in the sand.
And it'll exploit every opportunity it can.
Their strategy is to draw the whole region, every single one of the Pacific Island countries, into the Chinese world and make them dependent on China. And when you have dependency, then you're basically going to give the person you're dependent on pretty much what they want, because you don't have too many options.
There's an argument to say, you know, the United States, Australia, they're not exactly altruistic when they go and help out in these smaller nations.
Yep.
So why shouldn't China be able to help and invest in developing nations too?
You have to remember that a lot of Chinese aid are loans. You have to pay them back. They're not grant aid. It's not like we've built this irrigation system for you and handing it over, which we tend to do in Australia. Chinese loans are sometimes quite restrictive, and you have to pay them back. And then what happens is you get this debt trap diplomacy problem, where small countries, recipients of Chinese loans, can't pay them back. So the Chinese say, OK, you can't pay it back, so how about you give us a bit of your real estate instead, a debt for equity swap. That's the deal. And then you suddenly find you've lost your sovereignty and you've got a little China somewhere in your country where locals are not allowed.
Debt trap diplomacy has already stung a number of countries, from Argentina to Zambia, Sri Lanka to Laos. But as you'll see, it's far from the only weapon in Beijing's growing arsenal.
Given the overall designs of China's plan here, I think Papua New Guinea and, frankly, all the nations in the Indo-Pacific are at risk.
If anyone has a handle on the growing challenges in our region, it's retired Admiral Philip Davidson. Until April last year, he was the commander of US forces in the Pacific.
When you look at the situation in the Pacific right now, is China a threat?
Well, certainly they're using all elements of their national power, economic, diplomatic, and yes, military power, to change the status quo for Communist Party of China objectives.
So China comes in talking a friendly game, but you don't think that's what they're about?
They have ambition by the middle of this century to displace the international order and replace it with one of their own. And I think you only need to look at the closed and authoritarian society that Chairman Xi is leading there to understand what a threat that is to the free peoples of the Indo-Pacific.
Admiral Davidson has watched with alarm as China's influence in the Pacific has grown exponentially in lockstep with the expansion of its military. Just last month, with extraordinary fanfare, China launched its third aircraft carrier, the Fujian, its most sophisticated to date and seen as a rival to the very best of the US. Cutting-edge addition to a rapidly expanding naval fleet.
At the turn of this century, just 22 years ago, it was just a few dozen ships. You know, that Navy now consists of hundreds of ships, and they're introducing modern capabilities, long-range anti-ship ballistic missiles aboard those ships. They're introducing nuclear power to their submarines, hypersonic missiles to their rocket forces. It goes on and on and on. These are really profound changes in the last 20 years when there was no manifest threat from its neighbors.
How real do you think the potential for conflict with China is?
Well, I think in the very nearest term, China would like to do this diplomatically and economically. I think that's why you're seeing such assertive moves across the Indo-Pacific. The Solomon Islands specifically, I think is of key concern to the United States and to Australia. and should be seen as one of the opening volleys in a competition with China, because China is trying to change the status quo.
Australia remains Papua New Guinea's largest development partner, but there is no doubt China is raising its profile here in dramatic style. Across the country, Chinese projects are sprouting like bamboo shoots. But PNG's Prime Minister James Marape is keen to highlight his country's close links to Australia.
It's quite an impressive parliament.
Yeah, well, one of Australia's gifts to us in the early 80s, and again, symbolic of our democracy, it depicts the entire nation still going strong, 46 years on.
But given the efforts being made here by Beijing, it's perhaps no surprise the last big foreign dignitary to visit was China's Foreign Minister, Wang Yi, on a failed bid to ram through a sweeping trade and security pact with Pacific Island nations.